Hello, welcome to N-Gauge Model Railway. I finally received my new N-Gauge Dapol Class 56 locomotive after a wait of over 3 years. I first ordered one in Transrail livery in May 2023, when at that point they were expected to be available in the following June or July. In the following August, Dapol announced they'd be retooling their Class 56s with an expected availability of Q3 or 4 in 2024. In that announcement, they added the British Rail coal sector livery as an option, which I wanted more than the Transrail livery, so I cancelled my original pre-order and switched to a coal sector one. Multiple delays later, they finally started to become available in June 2026. As expected, the locomotive looks lovely. There are never really any surprises where looks are concerned because we get high-quality photos of these from the manufacturers and retailers. What's much less certain is how well it will perform. As always, when I get a new locomotive I'm keen to run it, but do force myself to read the instructions first. In the case of these Class 56s, the warranty will be void if the gears aren't oiled before running it in, so I dug out my DAP oil and added the smallest drop I could to each gear oiling point shown in the instructions. The phrasing in this section also suggests the warranty will be void if the lubrication isn't repeated after every 20 to 30 hours of use. I placed the loco upside down in its foam cradle, forgetting it's got two very fine aerials above the cabs, but by luck these didn't get crushed. With the layout connected to DC power, I did some short tests, and the model ran very smoothly and fairly quietly. It's not really quiet like a Graham Farish Class 47 for example, but it's okay. I then set that off on its 1 hour of running in, 30 minutes in each direction, as instructed. At some point in the last 2 years, I had formed the impression my pre-order was for a version with factory-fitted sound, but Dapol haven't made that an option. It turns out I'd opted to have custom sound fitting done by the model centre. In May 2026, TMC told me the price had increased since I'd originally placed the order, and it made having sound £150 more expensive, which is more than the sound is worth to me. So I cancelled that order too and replaced it with one for a DCC ready version along with a decoder, which was a bit cheaper than a DCC fitted version. I'm surprised Dapol didn't make these at least sound ready. That's become a standard option in the last few years and I miss sound on my locomotives that don't have it. Hopefully fitting sound will become cheaper, and if so I'll retrofit it to locos like this one if I can. Whilst the loco was running around in reverse, I noticed it was slowing at each corner. It was mostly the change in sound that was noticeable. But when watching it closely I could see the loco was also visibly slowing. The coupling looked like it might be coming into contact with the buffers, so I removed the leading coupling, but that didn't have any effect, so I put it back and decided to see if the issue went away with running in. There wasn't any noticeable improvement, but it's not a big change in speed or sound, and I want to fit the cosmetic detailed coupling to one end anyway, so I'll make that the front end of the running direction that works well. It's odd that it only does this one way around though. The instructions for DCC fitting are typically vague. The body simply unclips from the chassis. These days I'm quite comfortable with that level of information, but I remember how unhelpful it was when I was new to it all. There are some diagrams showing how things fit together, and that seems to show what might be clips, so I targeted those areas when pulling the body away from the chassis. I avoided the areas by the cab doors in case the bits beneath the doors are separately fitted parts. The body was quite a tight fit and I had to carefully work my way around the clip areas. This is more tricky than on older models because there are separately fitted pipework details that could easily break. Even once all of the clips seemed to be freed, the body still hugged the chassis fairly tightly, it didn't just pop loose. The instructions say there's no need to unplug the body's electrical connection to fit a decoder, which is an indirect warning to be careful when pulling the body off because it's got wires connecting its lights to the chassis. But it was at least enough of a clue, so I proceeded with care. The instructions didn't mention anything about cab interior detail though, which the end without roof fans has. It felt like I almost accidentally pulled that off the chassis. The body needs to essentially unhook from it. I wondered if that was supposed to have come away with the body, but there are lighting wires going to it that didn't have any slack to allow that. The blanking plate has a squishy pad stuck to the bottom of it, presumably to prevent parts of it making electrical contact with the circuit board below. That was also stuck to a chassis wire, so to start with I wasn't sure if it was part of the plate or the loco. I fitted a Dapol Imperium Next 18 decoder. It didn't have any metal parts protruding from it that could make contact with the circuit board below, so I just fitted it as it came. The Imperium's instructions say it's got a missing pin somewhere to help with getting it the right way around, but I didn't have my magnifying glass handy and there was clearly only one way it was going to fit onto the chassis. With the decoder fitted and the loco tested on DCC, I gently clipped the body back on. It looks like it isn't quite on properly, but it doesn't feel like it can go any further, and it looks the same as in close-up pictures online. I think, essentially, the body doesn't fit perfectly onto the chassis, which is a minor flaw in the design or production. It requires fairly close inspection to notice. When I'm watching the loco going around the layout, it doesn't look like anything is wrong, and I hadn't noticed this when I unboxed it, so for me it's not a flaw that matters. With all that done, it was finally playtime. A rake of HAA coal wagons is an ideal load for a coal sector Class 56. These are what I mainly intend to run it with. The Class 56 weighs 113 grams, which feels reasonably heavy for N-gauge, and it didn't seem to have any problem at all pulling my 24 Pico HAA wagons. However, the rake kept uncoupling from the loco. Each time that happened I moved the lead wagon to the back of the rake, but the rake kept uncoupling from the loco. Looking closely at the loco as it goes around corners, I could see the coupling was indeed coming into contact with the buffer, and being pushed down as it did. Here's a demonstration with the loco driving at speed step 1 of 27 from the end of a straight and into the easement of a corner, with me pushing an HAA along behind it for a reference point. As the corner tightens, the coupling is pushed down until it barely overlaps with the one from the wagon. That's likely to cause a pulling problem with other stock too. I'll work around this by replacing this coupling on the Class 56 with a magnetic hunt coupling, and do the same with one of the HAAs. The next day I did briefly have a go at fitting buffer beam detail to one end, but I couldn't get my magnifying glass into a position where I could see properly. I couldn't get the pipework to sit in my tweezers, and the buffers seemed to be getting in the way. So I'm going to tackle it another time. The picture showing the detail is hard to see because it's all dark, and there are some unexplained bits in the accessory bag. I can tell some of them are alternative coupling types, but there are 4 bits whose purpose I don't know. Maybe they're sanding gear detail or something. So, this is a model that has some definite issues. That slight slowing in one direction around curves, a body that doesn't quite fit, and a mechanical flaw with its coupling. It's disappointing that there isn't a factory-fitted sound option. At the time of writing, I've had the Class 56 for less than 24 hours, and it hasn't done much more than it's running in. But early indications are that it has almost flawless smooth running, can do nice low-speed crawling, and has more than enough power to pull a reasonably long train. I have basically no hesitation in returning models that don't work, but for me this one is definitely good enough to keep. I'll be working around its coupling and cornering flaws, and overall it looks great. I'm pleased it's finally here after the long wait. That's all for now. Bye bye.